This video is brought to you by ownersaber.com. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Quick Take and welcome back to another video on the channel. As the title suggests, this video will be analysing the key areas in which Chelsea need to strengthen for the now and for the future, along with the players that need to be moved on, examining the backroom staff needs, potential sponsorships, and taking a look at how Mauricio Pochettino will look to set up Chelsea in his first season as head coach. Today's like goal is 600 likes. I've got a feeling you guys will smash it. The 2022-2023 season will be remembered as one of the worst seasons in Chelsea's recent history. The London club currently sit 11th in the league and find themselves equal on points with Crystal Palace after 35 games played. Some may find it difficult to comprehend how a team like Chelsea could capitulate in such a manner following the incredible amount of investment placed into the squad by the new owners. Although this is actually rather simple. Following the dismissal of Thomas Tuchel, Chelsea have lacked any real stability, whether that be on the pitch or behind the scenes. Rash decisions and poor management choices have all contributed to the weakness that has plagued Chelsea Football Club for the past 9 months. Now, I could go on and on about all the minute details which have had disastrous knock-on effects, but that isn't the goal for today's video. No, today's video is all about breaking down the steps that need to be taken in order to transform a team that lost twice against 20th place and now relegated Southampton into a team that challenges for the league title against the likes of Pep Guardiola's Manchester City and Mikel Arteta's Arsenal. The first order of business for Chelsea in the coming summer is to perform a mass exodus of players. The squad is bloated with aging names and deadwood that need to be removed very quickly and in a very short space of time. Starting in the goalkeeper position, it seems inevitable that Edouard Mendy will be leaving in the summer. The Senegalese keeper was once viewed as one of the best goalkeepers in the world, which is why his fall from grace is even more concerning. His form since returning from the AFCON has been nothing less than shocking. He's missed countless games through injury whilst at the same time rejecting contract discussions, reportedly demanding £200,000 a week. It must also be noted that Mendy has only kept one clean sheet all season whilst playing for the Blues, that being in Chelsea's 1-0 away win against Everton in the opening fixture of the season. Chelsea paid €24 million to Rennes to sign Mendy and will look to recoup some of that fee. In my estimations, Chelsea would be very lucky to get around €15 million for the out-of-favour shot stopper. There is a possibility that Edouard Mendy won't be the only goalkeeper leaving Stamford Bridge in the summer, with Kepa Arrizabalaga also linked with a move away. The Spaniard still holds the record for the most expensive goalkeeper in history following his €80 million transfer from Club Athletic. Another brilliant piece of business from Marina Granovskaya. There is no chance this fee can be recuperated in the event that Kepa is sold. However, I believe the Spaniard could fetch a fee similar to what we paid for Edouard Mendy's services, around €25 to €30 million. He's still relatively young for a goalkeeper at 28 years old, has a wealth of experience in the Champions League, was a big component of Chelsea's 2019 Europa League win, and is a Spanish international. The next player who should be on the chopping block this summer is Cesar Azpilicueta. Azpi has been a terrific servant for the club, but his time has come. He was close to leaving last summer, although our inability to sign a competent backup for Reece James hindered the Spaniards' move away to join Barcelona alongside Marcos Alonso. With Malo Gusto joining in the summer, Azpilicueta can finally be moved on for somewhere in the region of €3 to €5 million. Trevor Chalobah is an interesting one. The academy player has made 22 league appearances for the Blues this season, although at points he looked solid, at others he looked out of his depth. With Chelsea looking to raise funds this summer, I believe Chalobah could be sacrificed in order to bring in more impactful players. His contract runs out in 2028, and with him being relatively young, I believe he could fetch a fee around €30 million. The fact he came from the academy makes his sale pure profit and therefore highly attractive. Next up is Koulibaly. Unfortunately, it just hasn't worked out for Koulibaly. He's struggled to acclimatise himself to the Premier League, and with Badiashile and Levi Colwill moving into that left centre-back position, and as Pochettino is likely to implement a 4-2-3-1 formation, it forces him out after just one season. We might be able to get around €20 million for him, or hopefully use him in a deal with Napoli during our pursuit for a certain Nigerian striker. This isn't a completely ridiculous idea, as Kim Min-jae looks to be leaving Napoli in the summer, with Manchester United interested in his signature. Malang Sarr is another player that can be described as surplus to requirements. The Frenchman is currently on loan and has no real future at Chelsea. He joined the Blues back in 2020 on a free and relatively quiet transfer. The few appearances he made for Chelsea were nothing special. €7 million would be a great price for the forgotten man. Next we have Ethan Ampadu, another loan player returning in the summer. Ethan has enjoyed a fairly decent loan spell at Spezia, making a total of 28 league appearances across the defence for the Italian side. If we weren't in the position that we're currently in, I would again like to see him loaned, perhaps to a club competing in the Europa League or even in the Champions League to see what he's really capable of. However, circumstances are how they are, and the Welshman's time at Chelsea Football Club is drawing to a close with just 1 year left on his current contract. There is a $15 million option to buy clause in his current loan contract with Spezia, although it is currently unknown if the Italian side are willing to activate this clause. If not, Chelsea may look to get around €12 million for the Welshman's services. One of the latest academy players to break into the squad recently is of course Lewis Hall. The young prospect is a very versatile left-sided player who can play left back, left mid and even in the midfield itself. This is a player who I actually wouldn't sell. I would try to extend his contract and loan him to either a bottom or mid-table side in need of a player in that position or a championship side similarly to Ian Maatsen. Speaking of Ian Maatsen, this is a very difficult one. Maatsen has played as a left-back for Burnley in their title-winning charge, becoming one of the most exciting loan prospects at Chelsea. The problem is, we already have both Ben Chilwell and Marc Cucurella in the same position, although some have discussed the possibility of both leaving for different reasons. If one were to leave, that would open an avenue for Maatsen to step in as a more attacking option in that left-back position. However, I find it hard to see either leaving, with Marc Cucurella being the most likely of the two to leave due to his poor first season in a Chelsea shirt. However, apparently Manchester City are also interested in Ben Chilwell. Ben Chilwell's injury record does make him somewhat of a liability. Since winning the Champions League, Chile has missed 55 games through injury, which is somewhat concerning. If we were to sell Cucurella, we could fetch a fee somewhere in the region of 40 to 50 million euros, although personally I would like to see him be given one more season to prove his worth. At Brighton, he was one of the standout players in a massively overperforming side. Baba Rahman is up next. This one is an easy sell. He's had a relatively quiet season at Reading playing at left back. He's not better than Chilwell, he's not better than Cucurella or even Ian Maatsen. No chance he gets anywhere near the first team squad. €1 million, thank you very much. OwnASaber.com have been kind enough to hook me up with my very own lightsaber, but this is no ordinary saber. The King of London is available for purchase right now with 100% metal hilt and a polycarbonate blade. This saber is perfect for dueling. Featuring an SM Pixel V4 soundboard that produces realistic lightsaber sounds along with the availability for an RGB S16 soundboard, you can easily picture yourself as a Jedi or a Sith wielding this piece of art. Free shipping is available along with a free 1-year warranty that covers any and all physical and electronic damage that may occur. And finally, make sure you use code TQT at checkout to receive $15 off your order. Okay, moving on into the midfield. I have to consider what Pochettino is likely to want. According to reports, he ideally wants no more than 2 players in one position, so that leaves 4 pivot players and 2 central attacking midfielders / second strikers. The first name on the midfield chopping block is Mateo Kovacic. The Croatian's contract, like many others, runs out in the summer of 2024 and is one of the players Chelsea are looking at moving on. According to reports, Manchester United are willing to meet Chelsea's €34 million price tag. Not a bad fee for a player with 1 year left on his contract and who actively wants a new challenge. He's been pretty good for us over the years, but this season has been far from his best. Next, we have a man who seems to almost get sold every season, but it ends up being a loan. It's Bakayoko. The French midfielder is currently on loan at AC Milan and has made a whopping 3 appearances for the Italian side, totaling 39 minutes of football in one whole season. His contract with Chelsea runs out in the summer of 2024. I really feel if we were able to get even €500,000 for him, we'd be very lucky. Considering we spent €40 million for his signature, this has been a disastrous move and one we'd be happy to forget. Another player Chelsea will look to move on is Ruben Loftus-Cheek. The story behind Loftus-Cheek is actually quite sad and very similar to Callum Hudson-Odoi. He is once an exciting young prospect before an injury knocked his trajectory off course and sent him to the ranks of bench warmer and occasional cameo man. Chelsea will hope to get in the region of 20 to 25 million euros, with interest from Serie A clubs bolstering the chances of a sale. This will also ease up £120,000 a week in wages. Hello guys, as I was writing this video, the news broke from Fabrizio Romano himself that AC Milan were in concrete talks to sign Ruben Loftus-Cheek, with negotiations progressing smoothly. Conor Gallagher is another interesting one. He's not been terrible, but at the same time he receives a lot of criticism for what he does and doesn't bring to the side. Although Everton conducted a €52 million bid in the January transfer window, this was rejected as Conor didn't want to leave Chelsea, and Chelsea's midfield situation at the time was uncertain. Reports suggest Poch would prefer to keep Conor Gallagher, but if push comes to shove, I believe Chelsea could get somewhere in the region of 40 to 45 million for his signature. And to wrap up the midfield, it's Mason Mount, the poster boy, the academy lad, clean as a whistle but out of contract in 2024 and is reluctant to sign a new deal. Everything that could have gone wrong for Mount this season has gone wrong. Although he has arguably been one of our best players for the past few seasons, it was this season under new ownership and 4 separate managers that Mason has really struggled to find form, which has really impeded his ability to negotiate for his £200,000 plus a week contract he feels he deserves. And so, with the owners unwilling to meet Mount's contract demands, we could see the English international move away from Stamford Bridge for 60 to 65 million euros, with Liverpool leading the race to sign the 24-year-old. Now, we move on to the attack, with the first name being Hakim Ziyech. Ziyech's time at Chelsea hasn't really been anything special, nothing to write home about, and with his failed loan away at PSG, it's clear the Moroccan has no desire to remain at Chelsea. Plus, with players like Noni Madueke, Omari Hutchinson and Raheem Sterling all able to play in his position, this leaves him with no option but to leave. His sale could fetch Chelsea 20 million euros, freeing up £100,000 a week on the wage bill. Next up is the LeBron James of soccer, Christian Pulisic. For the time he's been at Chelsea, he's been a fantastic American ambassador, especially for shirt sales in America. He sits only behind Messi in sales for the number 10 jersey. However, consistent injury problems and general lack of output has left the American looking for another club, and with Chelsea signing Mudryk and potentially another player who likes to play on the left who wears the number 10 shirt, more on that later, Chelsea will look to cash in on the American asset for 20 to 25 million euros, a fair price for the player he is and the marketing asset he can be off the pitch. Kai Havertz is another player who could be on his way out in the summer. The Champions League final goal scorer has failed to really make his impact on the league and in this squad, with brief moments of brilliance really being his only bargaining chip. Unfortunately for him, he hasn't been deployed in a system that suits him at all, playing under 5 different managers, Frank Lampard twice, and failing to really impress as he was expected to under any of them. And if reports are to be believed, Havertz is currently unhappy as Chelsea have failed to qualify for the Champions League, making a summer move even more likely. By my estimations, 55 to 60 million euros should be enough to relinquish the German from his Chelsea shackles. Aubameyang is another easy one. He was brought in primarily for Thomas Tuchel's benefit, only for Tuchel to be sacked not even 2 weeks following the striker's arrival. He's been forced out of the squad and clearly wants to leave. 5 million euros and he's gone. Callum Hudson-Odoi, what can I say that hasn't already been said? He was so promising, but again, a massive injury early into his career really did a number on his trajectory as a footballer. At one point, Bayern Munich offered 80 million euros for the Academy star's signature, but we refused and paid a heavy price. Since then, he's struggled to get regular game time at Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen, making 14 league appearances and producing just 1 assist. It's cruel how one bad tackle or running at just the wrong angle can have such a dramatic impact on one's career. We'd be lucky to get 10 million euros for the once promising player. One of the many points Pochettino has outlined during his discussions with the club is the way the youth have been treated. Players like Carney Chukwuemeka, David Datro Fofana and Omari Hutchinson were brought in to be players of the future, but how do you expect them to become the stars that you desire if they don't have the chance to grow and develop? That's why I believe they should be loaned out in the summer and Armando Broja be made backup striker for whoever comes in. The final player on the summer chopping block is, of course, Romelu Lukaku. Yes, Chelsea are in need of a striker, a focal point number 9. However, under no circumstances can Romelu Lukaku be allowed to wear a Chelsea shirt ever again. Hopefully, with Inter Milan's Champions League final and likely runners-up position, Milan would feel in a strong position financially to take Lukaku back on a more permanent basis, or at least another loan with an option to buy at 40 million euros. So, following the extensive summer clearout I have outlined, Chelsea could potentially be looking at 20 players leaving on a permanent basis, with 3 to 4 players before signings going out on loan. This should raise something in the region of 470 to 480 million euros in just straight player sales, whilst also reducing a total of 135.5 million from the annual wage bill, or around 2.6 million euros a week. One of the biggest problems outlined for Chelsea this season is their lack of goal-scoring ability. There is no focal point number 9 available. Chelsea are instead inundated with second strikers and wingers. Chelsea thought they had their man following the acquisition of Romelu Lukaku back in 2021 for 113 million euros. However, this turned out to be an incredibly costly move, as the Belgian went on to release an interview with Sky Italia outlining his discomfort at Chelsea and his desire to return to Inter Milan. Probably the biggest name and most expensive option available to the Blues to fix their striker problem is Napoli's Victor Osimhen, who will reportedly cost Chelsea a whopping 150 million euros. The question remains, is he worth it? Well, in my opinion, yes. This season, Osimhen has been a revelation and one of the key players in Spalletti's Scudetto winning side, along with Georgian winger Kavichi Kvaratskhelia and South Korean defender Kim Min-jae. The 24-year-old Nigerian striker has scored 23 league goals in 27 games, outperforming his expected XG of 19.15. Osimhen has also enjoyed an exciting Champions League run, adding another 5 goals to his season total, which stands at 28 for Napoli. Osimhen is a highly aggressive, pacey number 9. It's no mystery as to why he gets compared to Drogba. I've already said, but as a goal scorer, he is elite. He ranks incredibly highly in key metrics, 98th percentile for non-penalty goals, 97th for total shots, 97th for touches in the opponent's box, 96th for non-penalty XG. A potential drawback could be his lack of passing actions. He averages 13.23 per 90. However, when he does receive the ball, he likes to drive at the defence, similarly to Haaland, although Osimhen is far better on the ball than Erling Haaland is, and is able to dribble past defenders, if not win throw-ins in dangerous areas. As Osimhen is currently 24, this works in Chelsea's favour. If we were able to tie him down to a 6 to 7 year deal, that would mean he would reach the peak of his powers with 2 to 3 years left on his contract, meaning if any other club did come for him, like Real Madrid, a Bayern Munich, or even a Manchester City, Chelsea would be in a far better position to demand a very high fee. In short, he fixes our goal-scoring problems. Although his fee is high, his resellability will remain as such, and he idolised Drogba growing up, potentially giving Chelsea an edge when it comes to convincing the Nigerian striker to put pen to paper and continue to wear a blue shirt. Some of you may be concerned by the fact that Lukaku may return to Chelsea come the summer. However, Fabrizio Romano has reported Chelsea will sign a striker regardless of Romelu Lukaku's future. Also, I understand Ivan Toney was one of the favourites to become Chelsea's new number 9. However, the Brentford striker has been banned by the FA from playing football until mid-January. I would think it foolish to buy a striker and not be able to implement him into a new system designed to have a striker. It would offset the balance for the rest of the side and would potentially harm Chelsea's development as a side for the season. Now, sticking at the striker spot, I believe Osimhen won't be the only addition to that position. I believe Chelsea will be on the market for a young prospect, similarly to how Manchester City signed both Erling Haaland and Julian Alvarez. The two names who should top the list are Vitor Roque and Gift Orban. I went into more detail on Vitor Roque on another video. The 18-year-old Brazilian wonder kid is certainly an exciting prospect and would be an incredible acquisition whoever signed him. The young striker will reportedly cost 40 million euros, and Chelsea will have to deal with Barcelona, although as of the time of this recording, Barcelona are still having difficulties registering their own players. And so I believe Chelsea to be in a stronger financial position to sign Roque. The other name mentioned is Gift Orban, a 20-year-old striker playing for Ghent in the Belgium League. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I've watched him for years and know everything about him, but according to reports, Chelsea are scouting him, and I can see why. This season for Ghent, Orban has played 19 games and scored 19 goals. Although he doesn't have the physical advantages someone like Osimhen does, he uses his shorter stature of 5'10" and is able to change direction quickly and move with great agility. His finishing IQ is also impressive. From what I've seen of him, he seems to be able to judge very well where to be and when to be in the box to get on the end of chances. He is a little more expensive than Vitor Roque, with the Ghent hierarchy demanding 50 million euros for the young striker. In my opinion, Vitor Roque would be a better option, Younger, less expensive, and I believe has a higher ceiling than Gift Orban. See you in 5 years when Orban wins the Ballon d'Or and I'm proved entirely wrong. The next position in desperate need of investment is of course the defensive midfield, a partner for Enzo Fernandez to allow him to press up the field. There have been many names linked to Chelsea in this position, and I went into further detail in my The Perfect Partner for Enzo Is video, and I stand by my point that I believe Rice would, in theory, be a great partner for Enzo. However, it now seems inevitable that Declan's future resides in the north of London, with Arsenal preparing a €100 million bid for the England international. This will force Chelsea to look elsewhere, specifically Sporting Lisbon. I am a massive admirer of Manuel Ugarte. To me, he is now the best option and should be the #1 target for that defensive pivot position. Ugarte's release clause is €60 million, however, according to Ebola, not Ebola, Ebola, Sporting Lisbon are willing to lower the price by €10 to €20 million. €50 million for Ugarte is a steal. €40 million for Ugarte is daylight robbery. Chelsea, as of today, remain interested in Romeo Lavia. The Southampton midfielder is certainly one to keep an eye on, and following Southampton's relegation, a deal will cost Chelsea around €45 million. For a more detailed breakdown of Lavia as a player, his metrics, and my thoughts on him, make sure you watch the video I mentioned earlier. Another target for Chelsea this summer is Brighton's Moises Caicedo. It appears Brighton have accepted that both McAllister and Moises Caicedo will leave Brighton in the summer, with the latter being linked to both Arsenal and Chelsea. Caicedo is a fantastic player, there's no questioning it, and he's certainly versatile, playing in the midfield and also in a fullback position for Brighton as of late. The Seagulls demanded over €100 million for his services when Arsenal came knocking in the summer, and with Caicedo signing a new deal with Brighton, they are in no position to lower this valuation. Therefore, although I think he will become a fantastic player, I believe that €100 million plus it would cost to sign him would be better spent signing Manuel Ugarte and a goalkeeper. Speaking of goalkeepers, I outlined how it would be wise to depart with both Kepa and Mendy in the summer, replacing them with a top-class keeper and promoting Gabriel Slonina to the role of backup. The short list of goalkeepers linked to the Blues side of London are okay, nothing spectacular, with the most prominent links emerging to the Inter Milan shotstopper Andre Onana. Onana signed for Inter only last summer on a free transfer following his doping ban, and has made a total of 38 appearances in all competitions, conceding 30 whilst keeping a total of 19 clean sheets. This ranks him in the 94th percentile for clean sheet percentage, whilst also performing to a level ranking him in the 93rd percentile for save percentage at 78.2%. Another strength Onana possesses is his on-the-ball ability, making an average of 42.97 touches a game, more than 86% of other goalkeepers. This can be put down to Inter's style of play, but it doesn't detract from the fact that Onana is comfortable building play out from the back, a trait he will be asked to perform under Maurizio Pochettino. One stumbling block encountered in the potential transfer for Onana is Inter's asking price of €50 million, quite a large sum for a goalkeeper. Another negative to Onana is his decision-making ability. There have been times where Onana has taken rash decisions, rushed out of his box to intercept a ball, putting his team in unnecessary danger. Some may call this bozo moments, something Chelsea have endured enough under Mendy and Kepa. Other goalkeeper options include Emi Martinez of Aston Villa, Gregor Kobel of Borussia Dortmund, and Giorgio Mamardashvili of Valencia. You have no idea how many attempts it took to say that name correctly. Maurizio Pochettino has identified Martinez as a target, whereas the board were left impressed following Gregor Kobel's performance against the Blues in the Champions League. Mamardashvili is young and would most likely be the cheapest option out of them all. However, his inexperience is not what the Blues need between the sticks when they're trying to build some form of stability. Gregor Kobel, as mentioned, is liked by the board and, in my opinion, will be a world-class goalkeeper in a few years, although he carries a similar price tag to Andre Onana. Kobel signed for Dortmund in the summer of 2021 and still has 3 years left on his deal, putting Dortmund in a particularly strong position when it comes to negotiating a fee. Emi Martinez of Aston Villa is certainly an interesting option. The World Cup winner is highly respected by many, including fellow Argentinian Maurizio Pochettino. The Villa keeper would cost the Blues a reported €70 million fee, with Spurs also interested in the shot stopper services. To me, it's between Andre Onana and Gregor Kobel. Both are pretty tall. Onana stands at 190 cm, whilst Kobel stands at 195 cm. Both have Champions League experience, although an edge can be provided to Onana as he faces Manchester City in the 2022-2023 Champions League final. His performance in the final may have an impact on which of the two is favoured. If I had to pick one right now though, I'm taking Kobel for €40 million. So, we've addressed the striker problem, the DM problem and the goalkeeper issue. However, I'm not done yet. First of all, I believe a deal will be agreed with Madrid for João Felix to spend another year on loan with an obligation to buy. At which price, I am uncertain. It has been reported time and time again that Todd Boehly has João Felix in his plans for next season. I can see him being used in rotation with Christopher Nkunku in the attacking midfielder role behind the striker, linking the midfield and the attack excellently. Secondly, I would love to see FC Lorient midfielder Enzo Laffi brought into Chelsea. Enzo Laffi is a highly exciting player, standing out across many metrics, most notably successful take-ons, progressive carries, expected assists and tackles. He's incredibly active in the midfield, winning possession before driving forward, creating chances left, right and centre. With Kovacic and Ruben Loftus-Cheek leaving, I believe Enzo Laffi would be a great signing, providing talented squad depth and even starting games in the event of an Enzo Fernandez injury or if the Argentine needs to be rested. A move for Enzo Laffi would cost the Blues no more than 25 to 30 million euros, a bargain for a player of his class in this market. And finally, the last signing Chelsea need to make to bring them back to their former glory, and this may be controversial, is the joint top goal scorer for Brazil with 77 goals, equaling the late great Pellé's record, the 2011 Puskas Award winner, the 2018 Ligue 1 Player of the Year award recipient, the Champions League winner, the Olympic gold medalist, the Club World Cup winner, the UEFA Super Cup winner. It's Neymar Jr. Neymar has been linked to Chelsea for some time now, many of the rumours coming to nothing, although this time it feels different. The term marquee man has been banned around the Chelsea conversation, a player who is recognised as one of the best in the world and who has worldwide marketability. Boehly tried to make this Cristiano Ronaldo, although Thomas Tuchel was very against this move, and it may have been one of the straws that broke the camel's back in terms of Tuchel's long-term future at the club. Neymar suffered an unfortunate ankle injury during PSG's 4-3 win against Lille, shortly after the start of the second half. Prior to this injury, the Brazilian was enjoying a brilliant season, scoring 13 and assisting 11 goals in 20 league appearances. Neymar's metrics are unbelievable. He sits in the 99th percentile for assists, expected assists, non-penalty assisted goals plus assisted goals, shot creation chances, passes attempted and progressive passes. He ranks in the 97th percentile for non-penalty goals, 95th for non-penalty XG. He is a machine in attack, a defender's nightmare. I also believe Neymar's addition may help in our attempts to sign Vitor Roque, along with assisting Todd Boehly in his plans to transform Chelsea into a brand recognised around the world. Having a team with Neymar, Enzo Fernandez, Thiago Silva, Victor Osimhen, Reece James, Mykhailo Mudryk will certainly make Chelsea an attractive club for many brands for shirts and other major sponsorships. It is reported PSG are willing to accept a bid of 97 million euros for the Brazilian, a discounted price considering PSG spent 220 million euros to sign the sensation. During Pochettino's reign at PSG, he appreciated Neymar as a player, deemed him humble and excellent to work with. I doubt Pochettino would stand in the way of a reunion. To wrap up the summer signings, it will be expensive but necessary for long-term growth and success. Victor Osimhen for 150 million euros, Manuel Ugarte for 50, Gregor Kobel for 40, Enzo Laffi for 25, Vitor Roque for 40, and Neymar Jr. for 97 million euros, totaling around 400 million euros in signings or about 350 million pounds. Of course, the new signings won't be playing for free, and so I have guesstimated the amount the new signings could be paid per week, taking into account the salaries provided to signings made by Todd Boehly, along with their importance to the squad. Starting off with Osimhen, I believe the striker would be offered £325,000 a week, or €374,000 a week, making him the joint highest earner at the club next to Raheem Sterling. The Nigerian is currently on £93,000 a week at Napoli, which is the equivalent of €107,000 per week. So a move to Chelsea would more than triple his current wages, which makes it a very hard offer to refuse for anyone. Next up is Manuel Ugarte, who I believe could pocket a tidy £80,000 a week, or €92,000 per week. It's the wages Mason Mount is currently on, and with Mount leaving, I believe this would be an excellent opportunity to replace him with Manuel Ugarte on the wage bill. It's a good wage, and if he performs to a level which deems it, there is always room for a raise. The Uruguayan is currently paid £11,000 a week at Sporting, which is around €12,700 a week, making a move to the Blues side of London very attractive. Gregor Kobel is currently paid £34,000 a week, which is the equivalent of €39,000 a week by Borussia Dortmund. I believe Chelsea could lure the Swiss shot-stopper away through offering £70,000 a week for his troubles, which is €80,600 per week. Kepa Arrizabalaga is currently on £150,000 a week, and Mendy's no slouch either at £55,000 a week, saving around £135,000 a week in wages just in the goalkeeper position alone. £1,600. That's all that Enzo Laffi makes a week. For a player of his quality, I personally believe he should earn around £30,000 a week. It's a massive pay rise to him, but to us it's not that much of a burden. For comparison, Bettinelli earns £35,000 a week. Vitor Roque is an interesting one. With interest from Barcelona, Chelsea will need to offer the wonder kid a salary that is fair yet competitive. With Barcelona's current wage bill woes, I believe £50,000 a week to be more than fair. It's the same amount we offer to Mudryk, and as Roque is still 18, he can certainly be classed as a future prospect. And finally, we have Neymar Jr. The Brazilian is currently paid an astronomical £606,000 a week fee at PSG, a wage that will reduce massively with a move to Chelsea, yet still make him the highest earner at the club. A few years ago, Neymar was willing to take a 50% reduction in wages to move away from PSG, and so I believe it wouldn't be too insulting to have the winger on £350,000 a week, with the raises coming in the form of qualification for European football. With all the new additions, the new wages will equate to around £904,000 a week or £47 million a year, which is the equivalent to €54.13 million a year. With the player sales outlined earlier, Chelsea would reduce their annual wage bill by €135.5 million per year, and with the new signings we would still be in a reduction, saving €81.37 million even with the likes of Neymar Jr. and Victor Osimhen on the wage bill. Mudryk of course will be the long-term fit for the left wing, and I would expect Neymar to stay no longer than 3 or 4 seasons before moving on. 3 has been somewhat of a controversial sponsorship, one of the main issues being how ugly the logo looks on the Chelsea kits. With the 3 sponsorship agreement expiring in the summer, Chelsea are actively looking for a new sponsor, the main contender being Allianz. The 3-year deal was signed in the 2021 season, spanning over 3 seasons worth a total of £120 million or €46 million a year. Although Chelsea will not be competing in any European competition next season, they are still a massive institution that draws a lot of eyeballs and are very likely to make some form of European football for the 24-25 season onward. And seeing as shirt sponsors are usually multi-year agreements, this should not impede Chelsea's ability to negotiate for a high sponsorship deal, potentially worth €55 million a year. There have been concepts created online as to what next season's kit with an Allianz sponsorship would look like, and I'll tell you, it's a lot more easy on the eye than the 3 sponsorship. We could even potentially see the stadium's name changed as redevelopments begin. Stamford Bridge is iconic. You simply say the bridge and people know exactly what you're on about. To see the name change would be unfortunate and something that I definitely would not like to see happen. It must also be noted that the addition of Neymar Jr. to Chelsea's squad would be massive in terms of Chelsea's marketability, especially in Brazil. This would make Chelsea an even more appealing destination for potential sponsors, as the biggest companies would want their brand to be displayed to the world on the best players, attracting the most eyes. Neymar Jr. alone has 208 million Instagram followers. Seeing as Chelsea are looking to make additions on the field, I feel it would only be correct additions are made behind the scenes. Liverpool's Michael Edwards is one of the best in the world in his field, building a club's infrastructure from the inside out, making smart signings at smart prices. Edwards was approached by Todd Boehly early into his ownership tenure. However, the former Liverpool director of football turned down the opportunity, instead choosing to take a year out to rejuvenate, regather and spend time with his family. A highly respectable choice. With this sabbatical coming to an end, Chelsea would be wise to approach Edwards again and instate him as CEO of football. If Michael Edwards is still unwilling to take up the proposed post at Chelsea, Todd Boehly and Eghbali should look to AS Monaco's Paul Mitchell, a highly experienced director of football who has worked with clubs such as RB Leipzig, AS Monaco, Southampton, and was even the head of youth scouting at Tottenham during Pochettino's reign. Mitchell does seem to be the more likely of the two to land himself the role of director of football at Chelsea, joining the ranks of Christopher Vivell, Paul Winstanley and Joe Shields in building a side to dominate football for years to come. In my Pochettino manager breakdown, which received so much support and love, I went into great detail outlining the style of play and formations Pochettino is likely to implement at Chelsea, specifically the 4-2-3-1. This is how I believe, with the signings and player sales I have outlined earlier, Pochettino would look to set up at Chelsea. In my opinion, this is a team which will win the league within 3 seasons maximum. There's just too much class, too much talent, too much drive to not compete at the highest level for every trophy. Each player complements each other in more ways than one. Once again, thank you so much to Owner Saber for sponsoring this video. Make sure you guys go check out their store and use code TQT at checkout for $15 off your order. The link will be in the description, and if you do use the code, it helps me out, so thank you so much guys. So that's about it. This is probably going to be my longest video. It's taken me a week to put together, but this is a video I've been itching to do for a while now. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'll be reading every comment and replying to as many as you as I can. I want this channel to be all about conversations and people sharing opinions with others. If you haven't already, make sure you like the video, it really helps with the algorithm, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you are subscribed, you're a legend. I've been The Quick Take, and I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.